The figure shows the graph of the polar function r equals f of theta, where f of theta equals 4 cosine 2 theta. In the polar coordinate system for pi greater than 0, less than 2 pi. There are 5 points labeled A, B, C, D, and E. If the domain of f is restricted to theta is less than or equal to 2 pi and greater than or equal to 0, the portion of the graph that remains consists of two pieces. One of those pieces is the portion of the graph in quadrant 1 from C to E. Which of the following describes the other remaining piece? So we are given this polar function of 4 cosine 2 theta, and we are going to restrict theta from 0 to pi over 2. And one of the pieces that remains is this piece here in quadrant 1 from C to E. We need to find the other piece. So we can do that by plugging in some points. So we have, let's start with f of 0. We get 4 times cosine of 2 times 0, which is just 0. So 4 cosine of 0. So cosine 0 is just 1. So this gives us 4. So that means the graph starts out at a radius of 4. So on the polar graph, that would mean it would start out on this outward circle. And from the given information, that means it starts out here. Let's plug in a different point that we can calculate. Let's do pi by 4. So if we plug in pi by 4, we have 4 cosine 2 times pi by 4. That's just pi over 2. The cosine of pi over 2 is just 0, and 4 times 0 is 0. So after going from 0 to pi by 4, the graph goes from a radius of 4 units to 0. So that's the equivalent of going 0 along this path from 4 back to the origin at 0. And then if we plug in 4 of pi by 2, so 4 times cosine of pi by 2 times 2, that's just pi. So cosine of pi is -1, so 4 times that is -4. So that means from the origin, the graph goes to a radius of -4. So +4 would be going outwards like this, but -4 means we're going down or across from the origin. So going from E to D. And we know that it's not going from E to A because polar graphs are drawn like this. They go in this order for polar graphs that look like lotuses. So we would have to cover this arc before we go over here. And we can confirm that with a graphing calculator just to show you what that looks like. So if we have here, we're graphing r equals 4 cosine of 2 theta. But we've restricted the domain from 0 to pi by 2, and we see that all we've drawn here is this arc from C to E, from 4 to the origin, and then the next arc is from the 0 down to -4 over here. If we were to continue drawing from 0 to 2 pi, then we would, the completed graph would go something like this. So we know that this arc comes next in the order, so we know that the next portion of the graph is in quadrant 3, in this quadrant from E to D, E to D. So the correct answer is D.